This is The Poet and the Poem from the Library of Congress. We're on location. We are with Kendra Kopelke, who is the national face of Passenger Journal and Passenger Press. And actually, she's the founder-in-chief of so many things, but she's also the founder of her own poetry. And we're going to hear some of it right now. Let's have a poem, Kendra.
Thank you, Grace. It is so nice to be with you.
I
Oh
would
my,
love it anyway, even if we're on algorithms or in my kitchen.
oh,
It's great to be together. Let's hear a poem.
thank you so much. It's called it's about deer. I live in a 1950s suburb in Baltimore County, and over the last, as everyone says, deer are creeping more and more into our yards, and it's quite a sight. And it was an opportunity for me to think about it. It's called Deer Live With Us Now. Deer live in our yards and walk in our gardens. They lie down on our lawns at dusk while we prepare dinner. They eat our lilies and chew our leaves. They live with us now, like sheep and cows. They are not afraid. They make no sound, but hiss if a dog walks near. They hiss and give us the finger with their vanishing white tails as they leap leisurely over the fence, then disappear inside their parallel world. Deer eat at night while we're asleep, so as not to bother us. They thank us by being beautiful with their gleaming black eyes.
Kendra, everything you write is so compassionate. That is such a typical poem. I'm so glad you opened with that. I have to tell everyone that when you read Kendra's bio, you read about Passenger, and then way at the bottom, you see how many books she's published. And this is very significant because she has put her whole life on hold while she produced and presented other poets, mainly over 50 years of age. So what is Passenger and how did you begin it, Kendra?
Thank you for asking that. Passenger is started as a journal. The word passenger was made up. Passages in life and passengers through time. It's not a French word. I mean, it is a French word, but it's not our French word. And I started it when I was a young 30-year-old teacher, and a graduate student of mine got together, and I was teaching a class for senior citizens, called Senior Citizens then, at a senior center, and I was absolutely in love with every single one of them. I had never been around so many, quote, old people, except my grandmother, and it was astonishing to me. Astonishing.
What a great thing to hear. What a good beginning to hear. I never really knew that. Let us go back to you and your poetry for a minute and have two poems so everyone knows who you really are, and then we'll go back to Passenger.
Okay.
Kendra Kopelke.
This poem has a name. I like these medical terms. The term we use all the time now, it's very common, is outpatient. And we have all become outpatients. We all have procedures. And we go in and drive through and come out a couple hours later. And in that short amount of time, there's this transition that happens when you go through the anesthesia and then you return back. And that moment has always really fascinated me. So I wrote a poem about it. Outpatient. Where you've been, you can't say. Out. Because waking up, you feel drawn in, a ghost, penciling you onto a white page, discovering what you were supposed to have looked like. Wavy lines, held together with fat, snowy silence. You are coming to. Coming to what? Where? Colors stirring your ears, blues, pinks, voices ping and drop down, till one rises above and speaks only to you. Beautiful, new stranger, who takes your hand to pull you up, you a wave, and consciousness the shore, too bright. It's time to get up, she says, and get dressed, and hands you a clear plastic bag of clothes that looks like the remains of an abandoned world, but it smells exactly like you, down to the flimsy underwear and empty green socks. You oblige and let your life reclaim you, your life that has waited and kept watch and wants what it always wants, to take you home.
Mm. And another.
I wanted to read a poem about the pandemic. I wrote, like everyone, I wrote a lot during the pandemic, and it got stranger and stranger. And like everyone, I lived in my pajamas. And I had this great pair of pajamas. They were, I still have them, but there are so many holes in them. They're flannel and they have dogs all over them, great dogs. And I just wore them night and day. And after a while, as everything during the pandemic, the dogs started talking. They started getting their own orneriness. This poem is called Pandemic Pajamas. My pajamas have left another note on the nightstand in bright blue cursive. It reads, "The order of time has lost its meaning." Late morning, my pajamas and I discuss this on the living room sofa. They speak in riddles. My pajamas are flannel with dogs all over them and 5 frayed corduroy patches. A new tear appears above the elbow. At lunchtime, when I eat my yogurt, I hear them speaking to no one. Why does the word now have ow in it? Are the morning bird calls sirens or bells? Are all the birds that fly living overhead here? At dinner, with its onion smells and clanging pots, my dog pajamas whine that they are too tired to sleep. If the sky isn't actually blue, what else haven't you told us? At the kitchen sink, I spray a dinner plate with hot water that almost takes my skin off. In the narrow window, I see a woman wearing dog pajamas, her hair a pile of branches. The glass tilts, and a pack of blue dogs rushes into a threadbare night.
Oh, to start with a pair of pajamas and to end like that. Only a poet. Listening to those two poems, I am filled with a wonder again of why we have poetry. Who else would write about that moment of consciousness between being anesthetized and being awake? Just that moment of consciousness and then that realization of reality. Who else takes their time to do that? Other people are making money. And then who else writes about dogs on their pajamas and gives them personalities? What would it be like if we didn't have poetry? Well, then we go to Passenger.
Hmm.
What would it be like if we didn't have Passenger? What has that journal and your press produced in the past 30 some years?
Yeah, 30 some years, maybe close to 35.
Oh, really?
I think so. I think we're approaching our 35th birthday.
I'm glad to know that.
Yeah, when we began, our goal was to last 2 years so that we'd last longer than most literary journals, in historically. We just wanted to last, and here we go. So who knew it would be my life? I didn't.
Your life.
My life. It's been my life. It's been the editor's lives, Mary Israel's life, and together we have we kept wanting to know more. We wanted
Hmm.
to read more. People were getting older, living longer. The tide has changed since we began, and now we've produced 30. I mean, we've produced 76 journals and 35 books and anthologies. We have a weekly podcast that comes out. It's 5 minutes long that we started during the pandemic as a way to reach people. and it's made of excerpts from Passager. We have readings, and we
It's a
have the,
beautiful, it's really up there. It's the top of the heap of podcasts.
thank you.
And what else about, and this competition
Yeah.
that you run? Tell us about that.
Oh my gosh, that was a dream. As the longer we live as Passager, the more dreams we get to see. We get to
I
have
want
that.
to write that down.
That's one thing good about living longer with your dream cycles. So we wanted to have a national prize for someone 70 and older because we wanted to have the same idea of the first book with someone under 30 or under 40. We wanted to give it that same attention and to say, listen to this. I mean, this stuff is amazing what people are doing, and they feel so invisible already. They're not necessarily sending out their work. And the whole idea of being a public poet at 70, a new public poet, 70 and older, is really not, it's not at all, still to this day, it is a surprise. So we have this competition, and it's the Henry Morgenthau First Book Poetry Prize for a poet 70 and older, and it was the family of Henry Morgenthau, whom we published when he was 99 years old. We published his first book of poetry, and he gave readings until he was 101 because it transformed him, it enlivened him, and he said, I am seen differently. You know, I,
Oh,
I'm a poet. I'm a poet now.
and
Like,
beautiful. I have his book. It's fabulous.
yeah, you say poetry is a life force. We see it with Passager, every single book person we publish. It is a life force. It brings people into the world again. And we're hungry for it.
And
So
some of these people at 70 and over have been writing their whole lives and are very seasoned. I mean, we're not putting out Hallmark stuff. Your work, I saw these books, and the manuscripts are really unbelievable because I bet you can't even choose among them. Each one is more sophisticated than the other. It's not what you think. It is the top of poetry. And these people have been writing their whole lives. Nobody ever invited them to the party.
that's right. Or they have been working their whole lives as firemen and police and lawyers, and they are so excited to have this time to write. They've wanted to write their whole lives. And so they come to it at a higher level, like you say. Um, it's astonishing the people that we have encountered.
And is that what keeps you what you are? Is that also what hydrates you and makes you want to get up in the morning?
Well, it certainly has made getting older. It has created a world for me. It's created a world for Mary Israel, who just turned 80 and said she loves turning 80 because she knows so many 80-year-olds through Passager, and she's seen the amazing creative work they've done.
Are you with the original team? I think
Mhm.
Mary is original, right?
Mary
35 years and
just
going
about, yeah,
strong.
she's just
Mhm.
about one of the originals. And then we have Roseanne Singer and Christine Draw, who are, so it's the four of us as a team with John Shore as the podcast host. It's just a wonderful group of people to work with.
Passenger, passenger, passenger. Don't forget that word. And now don't forget Kendra Kopelke, because we're going to hear two poems and then we'll have more of Kendra. Who could want more?
Great. Who could want more?
I
Um,
could.
I'm gonna Edward Hopper, the paintings of Edward Hopper. Most people know Hopper as an American realist who painted the light, and he painted solitude. And in fact, he did, but he also painted many, many, many women. And I didn't know that. And when I encountered these women, I was kind of astonished and mesmerized and appalled and everything at once when I looked at them. So every day I wrote, I looked at a painting, and I st just started looking, and
Oh, it's
then
just like pictures from Bruegel.
they
William
started.
Carlos Williams just looked at it. Is that what you did? You just looked at the painting and then responded?
I went to my little studio at 5 in the morning, and I always woke up with the light, with the Hopper painting. So I was sort of in a dream state, and the women in the paintings are also waking up. So they start to wake up when I see them. And they didn't like what I was saying about them, so they started talking to me. And this,
Let's hear it.
so they either talk to me, the poet, they talk to the viewer, or they talk to Edward Hopper. This first poem, I'm sorry, is from the cover image, and she's talking to me. And this changed my life. When she talked to me, it changed my life. Because she was mad at me. It's called 11 a.m. Don't jinx me. Just look. The light seems born here, to, and the window to receive it. Ignore the noise in your head. That was then. The light will not wait for you to grow up. Hopper says, who needs anything else? And I love that my hair alone falls over me, blanketing me, and how the light is inseparable from my skin, my forearms, shoulders, hips, knees, the tops of my feet, the way it makes its own movie with its cast of shadows, and my hands clasped in reverie, the light housing their touch. Tell me when you feel it too, when your seeing has gained all feeling, like the lamp deepening the foreground. Tell me when you are truly standing here beside me. I think, that ending for me, tell me when you are truly standing beside me. It makes me cry now because I think that's our work. Tell me when you're really here with me. And it was like that Rilke, last line of Archaic Torso of Apollo, you must change your life.
Mm.
Tell me when you're here. You think about the way people look at art. You go to a museum and you hear people say, oh, I don't like that, or I like, it's like, it's judgment, judgment, judgment. It's not seeing, it's judgment.
Mm.
It's right to judgment. And so writing these poems taught me how to look at art, because the way you look at art is the way you look at art. How do I want to look at art?
Mm.
So that I'm truly, truly standing beside it, seeing it. So do you want me to read another
I
one?
do with all my heart.
This poem is called Hotel Room, and this woman also is waking up into the painting, and she's talking to Hopper. She makes reference to a couple of paintings, by the way, in the poem, so just to keep that in mind. It's a painting of a woman sitting on a hotel bed that's never, his beds are never made. It was just the white sheet, and she's reading something and you can't tell what. And I spent a lot of time in my little writing studio holding up the paintings and measuring things and trying to see, what it was. What is that? What is that? And it was a wonderful process to go through. I recommend it highly. Hotel Room. Thank you for the letter and its creamy folds. I only wish something were written on it. Thank you for the half slip. A little tight, but at least my breasts aren't bare. At least I can be left alone. Thank you for the green stuffed chair, whose curves make me feel like a green stuffed chair.
Mm.
I see out of the corner of my eye, you have draped my dress over the chair's arm like a waiter's towel. A welcome gesture. But you haven't left me much of a face to work with. Perhaps you don't want my face in your way. And my hair is heavy, too heavy. I'm afraid and claustrophobic, like you were pressing down too hard, too long, like you think I might not be anybody you need to consider. I'm glad not to be the woman in the sun, not to be smoking or trying to smoke. I'm glad not to be the woman in Girly Show, stripped of her inner life. Are you ever sorry? I can't say I like how you've got me surrounded. Though the sheets are white and my desire to be anywhere else is unrealistic, since I am not anybody I know.
Kendra, Kopelke, are you ever sorry? Kendra, my whole body, my whole body just responded to that. Kendra, we will want a CD of that reading. Since you have the wherewithal with your podcast, you are now going to read that entire book just as you did it now, because that has got to be on audio. I mean that I have chills. And why? Because it speaks of every woman. I mean, that's about me. That's about you, painted in light. I mean, what you have captured is not the picture. It's what we are as in whatever picture we are. I mean it. I had never known of this book. I knew the title, never heard of it. Do you promise to make a CD?
Sure.
Do
I
you?
promise.
I won't
I
eat or
promise.
sleep. Okay. We will hold you to that. You have the wherewithal to do it.
Thank you for the
Oh,
encouragement.
it will be, I would listen to it and I would weep because you're telling me who I am.
Yeah.
Honestly, I love that a lot. And it says so much to identify with. Back to the public, Kendra. You are a starter, you little devil. You just can't stay still. You started a Master of Fine Arts in Poetry at the University of Baltimore all those years ago. How did you manage to push that through? You were teaching there, and how did you manage to get a master's program
Well, there
started?
was first of all, there was a master's in publications design, and finally the state allowed us to have a master's in fine arts and creative writing. It's fiction.
How did you actually swing that? You say the state. Did you go through the college first and they
Well,
agreed?
The state of Maryland would never allow it, and then they allowed it. So we jumped. We were ready to jump. We had creative writing as a minor and as a master's minor, and we were ready to just create this space.
How did actually this begin? Did you just say, did you advertise for a master's that people could apply to it? And how many did you get at first?
Wow. I was a ways back, Grace. I was close to
Oh, okay.
years. But I think the thing I want to say about the program is there isn't any program like it. And it's called a Master's of Fine Arts in Creative Writing and Publishing Arts.
I know.
And not publishing arts. That arts word was very important to us because what it says is this is art. We are making art. And all of the students in the program not only finish a manuscript, but they take design classes and they make a book. They design it, they produce it. So their thesis has to do with what do you want your physical book to feel like in somebody's hands?
Oh,
So it's unbelievable.
what a criterion.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable to ask them these. Who gets to ask these questions? Like, how do you want your poems to? Where do you want them to live? That's always been my question. Where do you want to live? And how can we create a program where everyone feels that they're at home there? Everyone has a home, and everyone's making their home, and everyone's finding a space for themselves.
Is it still going on?
Yeah, Betsy Boyd is the director now. It's just a wonderful, wonderful program.
Oh, you have such a resume. You have such a life of riches. And it's a testimony to the fact that the more you give, the happier you are, because you are very prosperous. And we're all the benefactors. Those over 70, but you're going to have to up the ante because 50-year-olds are now having babies.
Oh, I know. I
The
know.
whole world is different. It's going to have to start at 70 now.
Well, I was 30, so I guess, I thought 50 was like starting to, and that was in 1990.
Well,
That,
yeah.
yeah, 50 is so in hindsight for me now. It's like, whoa. Now, yeah, 70 seems young.
But it's still an important watermark for people, I believe.
I
And
think so too.
as you are welcome to the party, and you've always thrown the party. So let's go back to your own poetry, please. And
All
tell
right.
us about these books, Edgar Street and Bladderville. How do you describe the work in that?
Well, Eager Street, it was Eager Streat. That's my first
Oh,
book of,
that's right.
yeah. And that's a collection of, me in my 30s, I think, largely. And it was a very big moment for me. And then after my husband got bladder cancer and was writing these amazing, funny emails to his group of all these men wanted to hear about it. They were very freaked out about bladders. And so I wanted to make a book of poems about bladder and poems about the bladder and his emails put together. I wanted us to create sort of a medical portrait of a way to go through this, a way. He gave voice to it, and I wanted to give voice to it, and he called it Bladderville. So everyone can enter Bladderville with us. That was an
Freaked
interesting.
out about bladders. Gonna put that on your tombstone. Freaked out about bladders. Oh my, you just don't have any boundaries, girl. Really, that 9-year-old is running rampant inside of you. So back to your poetry, please. Kendra Kopelke.
All right. This is a different poem about my standard poodle, Gracie.
I knew it was named Gracie, and I thank you.
You're welcome. She was Gracie Allen.
I remember Gracie Allen.
Yes, and she was very funny. But as she got older, and when she was 10, the gate in our backyard was open, and it was 10 o'clock at night, and we didn't know it for about a half an hour, and Gracie was gone. Um, and 10 o'clock at night, I'm looking for my dog. My dog is brown. I don't think I'll ever find her. It's a moment like Outpatient. It's a moment of where you're awakened into another aspect of who you are and where you live. It's called Lost Dog. The waning moon dares me to believe I will find her. The houses with their doors shut, porch lights off. I hate them. The hedges flaming into the black sky can go to hell. November zips everything inside its body bag. The black air, cold vinyl. The neighbors gone to bed. Meanwhile, the night erects its maze. My tiny eyes scan the yards for luck. Somewhere, a brown dog who needs to come home, who steps noiselessly over leaves, whose nose wanders her innocently off, who doesn't know she's missing. I call out her name, startled by the shrill sound, my voice, a key scratched along glass. I hear my dog everywhere, not listen. The plates inside my body start to quake. Gracie, come! I pause to let the silence fill in before calling out again. Do I want the neighbors to hear my lonely cry? I look for anything moving. The night pulls its rig up to the curb and asks that I get off. Enough, it says. Can't you see the no trespassing signs? She's ours now.
Ah, scans the yard, scans the yards for luck. We will have a final poem now.
Short, long, short, long.
Anything you say.
All right, I'm going to end with my little twins. Short poem, 2 weeks old. I have 1-year-old twins, and I was there for the first month when they were born. Nothing more amazing than being with infants. Like old people, we know so little. They are a poem, those before they speak and they sleep. And I am fascinated by this transition from the darkness of the womb to the light of the world. Born, but not yet. They are sealed as stones. Coming from darkness, they have grown ears, soft as petals. Their tiny faces, clocks. Listen, behind these 4 closed lids, the hour of wonder and awe strikes. They say, we are a mystery to ourselves. And you, too, are still a mystery to yourself.
Mm. The unforgettable voice of Kendra Kopelke. And this is the poet and the poem from the Library of Congress. The program is produced by Forest Woods Media Productions, post-production by Mike Turpin, MAT Studios. We wish to thank the Library of Congress for making the program possible. Funding is provided by the Sun-Nippet Fund, by the Ravada Foundation, by friends of the program, Sandy Jackson Cohen, Natalie Canavor, and Aviday Shashani. We also want to thank the Ravada Foundation. I am Grace Cavalieri, and our engineer is Mike Turpin.